uh, do you first became an army and then start doing the research, right?
Uh, I it's so hard to like look at it now. I think right before I started the account, I was like referring to myself as an army, but like I also wasn't really talking to anybody about BTS. So it's like I was more talking to myself and like watching things by myself and being like, oh, I love BTS. But I don't think I necessarily in my mind was like, am I an army? Am I not an army? I just was like, I love BTS and that's it. I think it was once I joined the fandom, then I was like, okay, definitely, like definitely I'm an army. Like I said, with when you start to interact with people, like you start to feel that community and you start to identify a little bit strongly. But I'm pretty sure that before I had this Twitter, if people asked me if I was an army, I probably said yes anyway. But I don't think I really like fully understood to the extent of like what that meant to be an army was until I started the Twitter and started like really observing everything and being more involved, because there's really so much more to it than just loving their music, right? There's like
Yeah.
it's so complex in this fandom, but yeah, and I would imagine that everyone's fan experience, the more they interact with the fandom as a whole, like that definitely gets stronger for a lot of people. So that was kind of my process.
Yeah, I find it really interesting. Like before, like growing up, I was more into rock and roll. Like I love Linkin Park, which I know is
Yeah,
not exactly rock and roll, but I love Linkin Park.
there's a lot of armies who love Linkin Park.
I think there's a lot of correlation between they combined um, rap with they chose rock, but BTS does it with pop. Though I think there's a lot to say that in the end is kind of poppy. But they also like they have messages. I think overall the concept is not that
Yeah.
wrong. And I listen to Metallica and Pink Floyd and The Who and Queen. Like that's the kind of music Red Hot Chili Peppers. That's the music I listen to, and I always liked pop, but it was like it's fun to dance to, but it's not really music with a substance. So I would listen to MTV a lot in the early 2000s. I watched every VMA.
Yeah.
That was like right in my peak high school years. We used to go in high school. We go clubbing like from on Friday nights, like from midnight to 6 a.m. That's in high school, like, and it's normal. So you go dancing almost every weekend. So obviously a lot of pop, but I've never been the girl to have posters on her wall. And this is only because of the podcast. But
Right.
like I wouldn't get merchandise. I wouldn't. That wasn't me. So to go from that to say I'm an army, I'm a fan of a pop group, was such a big thing for me, and my family was like kind of shuddering against it and like looking at it a bit weird. And also the word for fangirls is worshiper, not just girls. Like if you love a band, the word is like worshipped. They're literally idols that you worship and like you idolize. And but it is like worship. That's the word. And for football fans, it's fans.
Right.
So they get fans, but we worship. So I say fans. I refuse to say worship. I don't worship anyone. Like, so I think just that word alone, like even if you use a word a lot of time, it kind of loses its meaning. Still, every time I say that word, I would like cringe because it's words have power, and when you use it and you define yourself as someone like that, I couldn't do it. And to bring myself to a point to say, yes, I'm an army. Yes, I have zero shame about it. I've never been ashamed of the music itself, but to be part of a fandom and to have that fanatic association with you, and that was for me a really hard thing to pass. And once I got to Twitter and I saw so many people around me, virtually around me like that, and found that community, it made everything so much easier, and really I felt embraced by it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even me too. Like I said, I don't really know too. I've met some newer armies, obviously, in here where I'm from, but that's like through Twitter. And because here in Las Vegas, they have a Las Vegas group, and it's like a bunch of awesome armies. But before that, I didn't have people around me who liked BTS, that I wasn't sure of like how I was going to be perceived as like the fact that I liked it. So yeah, I mean, I didn't really tell people about it. I just was like, oh yeah, like low key was like, yeah, I like them. But then like I would go home and like watch like everything, And so I think, yeah, finding finding army and being able to interact and engage with them like makes me even more proud to be a fan. And I agree with you. It is strange because we don't use that term a lot, like the worship term, but I know that people see it as that, and it's not quite that, but yeah, I'm just like you, super glad that I've been able to find army and interact with them and feel a little bit more comfortable and confident in the fact that I do love this. So yeah.
Yeah. Do you find like, because you publish those maps all the time, is it problematic that you put your research out there before it's fully realized?
Yeah. So the maps itself, like they aren't, and they weren't initially supposed to be any part of my research. Like I said, it was just something that I did for fun.
Mm-hmm.
But because of the impact that it's had, and I do realize its importance in telling stories about like that global aspect of the fandom and its relation to social media. That's certainly something that I do want to publish on later. It's something that myself and another army are thinking about. But I actually asked this question to somebody like 2 days ago. I asked if there was any issues with like publishing things like these and publishing work that I wanted to put out in articles and that sort of stuff. And I think the rule of caution is if you submit a paper and it's in review and you're waiting for a decision, you probably shouldn't be publishing like that full thing like anywhere. But I think in the meantime, like a lot of what I put out is just super like bits and pieces and snapshots, so I don't think it's like I don't worry about it too much.
It's also not the story. It doesn't have the conclusions. It's just
and which is so and like that's the thing too. It's so hard with Twitter because you're so limited and like in that storytelling, which is probably why like I started that medium where I was able to explain things a little bit more. But yeah, like Twitter is great for those little snapshots, but I'm excited for what's to come when I'm able to write more of those like journal articles to really go in depth and to talk about things like theories and like have all those implications put into it. I think it'll really go in depth and help to give even more information and about these maps that and the data that I put out that is like beyond what people probably even like think about, because there's even things on the back end that I have so much data like that I don't even know what to do with.
yeah.
So hopefully I'll
academic.
Yeah, exactly. Like I just have it there and it's sitting there, and I definitely want to do something with it. If there were more hours in the day, I'd for sure get to it sooner, but hopefully I'll get to it one day. But in the meantime, it's like baby steps, right? Like I have like I said, couple projects in the pipeline in these coming months, so hopefully we'll get those out and published for not only Army but like everybody to see, and hopefully they'll take something good away from it. So
well, good luck. Can't wait to see.